Estimating is one of the biggest ways you'll lose money in your construction company. Estimating a job wrong can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars and even ruin your reputation. Let's talk about the three biggest mistakes contractors make when it comes to estimating a job and how you can fix them. So, one of the biggest things, let me tell you a little story about a bad estimating job I had is we bid this job at one point and we got to the very end and we weren't holding enough money in the category for fascia. So we put on a shittier fascia than we should have. And it started oil canning and doing all this stuff. And I'd bid it incorrectly and I wasn't holding a good enough number. And so it started oil canning and the final product wasn't good. And the client came to me and was like, "Hey, David, like, why is my product doing this?" And I was like, "Well, we bid it at this really low gauge aluminum and that's what it does." And he's like, "Well, why didn't we bid it at a higher aluminum?" I'm like, "Oh, well, we didn't have the budget for it and you accepted the bid basically and that's what it was." And he looked me dead in the eyes. He goes, "I'm building a $3 million home. How much more is it for that extra fascia?" I was like, "I don't know, it's like $7,000 more." And he's like, "Do you think I would not have paid an extra $7,000 more to have my fascia not do this?" And I was like, "No, you would have." He's like, "Why didn't you come to me?" And I was like, "I just didn't have the money and I got nervous." And he was like, "I want you to take it out. I'm going to pay for it, but I want you to know that this is on you." And it just really, really hit me. It was a crucial moment for me to make sure that I ask all the right questions. And as I'm bidding a job, and if a client has a job that's a low budget in certain categories, I need to communicate that with them. I need to let them know. So, not asking the right questions is a big deal. Why this matters is simply the quality of your estimate depends on how much information you have. So when you're going through a set of drawings, when you're working with clients, when you're working with architects, when you're working with designers, if you're a subcontractor and you're working with builders, you got to know the information. So let's say you're a painter and you need to know 7 things to paint your job correctly. You should be asking them or even having a form, a submittal form, even better, and handing it to them and saying, "Please fill out this form so I can bid your job accurately." What kind of base is it? Is it paint grade? Is it stain grade? What kind of casing is it? Paint grade, stain grade. What kind of windows? Are they paint grade? Are they stain grade? Am I even painting the windows? What kind of walls are they? What kind of sheens are they? Is it a two-tone? Is it a flat ceiling and a eggshell wall, like in a semi-gloss base? Am I painting the doors? Am I staining the doors? What about exterior steel? Am I painting exterior steel? Am I painting decks? Am I painting the exterior siding? What things are going to happen in this house that I need to know to paint my job correctly? On the flip side, if I'm a general contractor, I need to ask all those questions to the client so I can say, "Hey, Mr. Painter, this is the things that I need you to do. There's 35 doors throughout the house. Here's the set of plans." Or if it's a remodel, you don't have a set of plans, you've done a door count. "There's 35 doors in this house. I need you to sand them all. I need you to paint them all. What's the square footage of the flooring? We're going to have to tear that out. I want to put a vapor barrier down. Let's talk about tile. Like, is there going to be curbs? Is it going to have mitered edges? Is it going to have schlutered? Or is it going to, are there niches? What's the pattern? Is it brick lay? Is it mosaic? Like, there's a lot of things, a lot of questions. That's just tile and paint. And there's a shit ton of answers and a shit ton of questions when it comes to bidding a job. So you need to figure out all these things. So how to fix this? If you're a subcontractor, you need to get upfront detailed questions from the GC or the homeowner. And if you're a subcontractor, you only do essentially one thing. You're a plumber, you're an HVAC, you're an electrician, you're a painter, you're a framer. So all you do is frame houses. All you do is side houses. So you have a list of questions. You've done hundreds of houses, or if not dozens of houses, and you know the things that have and have not worked in those houses. You understand that when you bid a project, always we're short on cedar material. Always people forget about the soffits. Always people forget about the cornered edges when it comes to cedar, and they don't include that in aluminum, and then it's a change order and they get always mad at me. What are the areas that GCs have always gotten mad at you, or homeowners have gotten mad at you, or frustrated with you, and they're like, "Man, that sucks." And you're like, "Well, you didn't tell me to bid it." So you need to come and collect as much information as you can as a subcontractor, as a general contractor, from the homeowner or the contractors or the architects. You need to have a list. So if you're a subcontractor, you should have a list of all the things you need answered in order to provide an accurate bid. Nothing pisses me off more than when a subcontractor comes back to me and says, "Well, I bid it off plans and that's what the plans showed." And I'm like, like let's just take a plumber for example. Like in Park City where I live, it's an old mining town. We have really hard water. And so we need water softeners. If you don't, all your glasses are going to get stained. All the shower glass on your showers are going to get stained. Like it makes your skin itch. And if you're a plumber in Park City that you're going to put a water softener in there. And so when you bid the job, don't come back at the end of the job and say, "Oh, I didn't include the water softener. It wasn't in the plans." That's lazy to me, and that's an opportunity for you to get a change order. So you're only bidding the job at a certain dollar amount, call it $50,000, but mentally you know that they're going to put a water softener in there, and you're going to add 3,000 here, 2,000 here, 5,000 here, and all of a sudden you went from 50,000 to 70,000. But the other plumber that was $70,000 as well, he had all that stuff included. Now it's my job as the general contractor, or your job as the general contractor, to vet that out, to make sure you answer those questions. But let's say I'm just a homeowner and I'm doing a remodel. I've never understand this stuff. I don't know anything about construction. But the the plumber comes and goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, this guy's 50,000, this guy's 70,000. Okay, I'll go with the 50,000." And then he comes back and goes, "Oh, well, you're probably gonna want a water softener." Well, I didn't know that. That's lazy. That's lame. So you should have a list of questions that you need as a plumber, as whatever, and saying, "Hey, here's all the options. We're $50,000, but that does not include this. If you want to add a water softener, a recirculating heat pump, if you want to add, a tankless or a boiler, or, you might need a sewer ejector pump, whatever the situation is, it's going to cost 2,000. Give a line item. So maybe it's a menu that I can pick from, and I check the three things, and I go, okay, add $7,500 to this bid. I want to add those things to it. So you got to make sure that you're getting upfront detailed information, you're asking the right questions, you're getting all those things, because that is the number one thing that you need to estimate a job correctly, is the correct information. So number two, the number two mistake that I see with estimating in myself, with other contractors, is not holding enough money in the categories that we like to call gotchas. There's always a gotcha on a job. So once again, if you're a painter, you know that there's always a gotcha when it comes to paint touch up. So you don't add that in your bid, but you say to them, "Hey, I have an allowance for $4,000 here. After we're done painting, drywall gets dinged up, appliances come in, they hit the walls, the furniture comes. I got $4,000 in here. This is an allowance. Odds are I'll only spend $2,000 of that, but I have an allowance in there. So my bid's $25,000, but I'm holding $4,000 in this bid for touch up. So, it might be as low as $21,000 on this bid. If everything goes great and there's no touch up, your bid's gonna be $21,000, but expect to pay 25. It's a gotcha in paint. There's so many gotchas in construction. Like, for instance, like a gotcha in, man, I'm struggling now, but like it's, construction is just really unpredictable. You're always going to have unknowns. You need a financial buffer for the gotchas, unexpected costs that pop up in every job. Maybe you just have a miscellaneous category that you call general labor, and it's listed at a certain amount, but you know that that's going to be for like added demo, added, landscape, just the bullshit things that happen every single time. You got to have those categories for it. All right, so like a gotcha is like when you tear out a wall and it has mold and asbestos in there. You have that category in there, faulty wiring or code, minimums aren't met as you tear it out. Let's talk about excavation. That's a big gotcha. There's so many unknowns when it comes to excavation. So when I start digging down on these projects, there might be unsuitable soil, non-compactable soil. So we got to over excavate, then we got to bring in compactable fill so we can get to that bearing pressure that's required by the soils engineer for those footing, bearing pressures or whatever. Or we might hit rock. We got to hammer it. So I'm holding $200,000 for excavation. That might add an extra $100,000. So I have mentally set aside on that budget $100,000 for the excavation. There's so many things. So you build a contingency in that budget and you communicate that with the client. That contingency, just depending on the size of the job, it could be 5 to 15% of the project cost. So one of the best ways to do this is go revisit your old estimates. Go revisit your past projects and say, okay, I estimated this on this job. What did I ultimately bill on this job? So where are the gaps and the discrepancies? And then write it out. Why did it go over? Maybe the homeowner changed something. That's not necessarily a gotcha. But like learn from your historical data. That's one thing a lot of contractors don't do. They have historical data and they're not learning from it. They're not taking the time to go back and look at their old estimates, go back and look at their old billing and their final cost for the project, their invoices, and say, okay, I bid this job at this. I was missed it by this much. Why? Where are the gotchas? Where did I not put enough money in? Where did I not ask enough questions? So where did you lose money and time? Where did you lose last project? So you learn from your mistakes. Every single project, you should have a line item for the next estimate of your mistakes, your gotchas. We call them the lessons learned, the LLCs. So if you haven't already, go subscribe to my podcast, LLC. It's available on YouTube. It's available on Spotify. It's available on Apple. Go subscribe. There's a lot of lessons that we've learned in our construction career, and I document those lessons. I talk about them because there's always a lesson to be learned on a job site because construction is undefeated. So rather than be discouraged about these things, we document them. So we learn from those lessons. And then lastly, mistake number 3 is not conveying the message well enough to your clients. So why this matters. Clients get frustrated when they get change orders they weren't expecting. That's when they get frustrated. It's plain and simple. So you got to set that expectation up front to prevent those conflicts. Hey, just want to let you know, I got $50,000 in this demo package. Based on the area you live in, the size of this house, the time in which it was built, whatever it is, there's a 60% chance when I open up that wall, these wires are out of code. There's gonna be mold in here. The flooring, the subfloor is gonna be rotted. So I'm bidding $50,000 in this demo, but there's a damn good chance that these 3 things are gonna have to happen because I'm gonna open this up and I've done this in past projects and I've gotten bit before. So I'm holding $50,000, but I want you to know that it's going to add an extra $50,000 to that budget. So we're going to have this allowance over here of another 50 just to account for it. So I want you to expect $100,000 and anything less than that is groovy. That's setting the expectation. So, this is a spreadsheet that we use in our construction company and we kind of make notes in here of little gotchas that we have. So, but you got to set those expectations with the client. So when you're bidding a job, you're giving that client the example of the excavation, and say, hey, I know this area and there's some bad dirt in here. There's a lot of rock in here. So, if everything goes perfectly, it's going to cost $100,000 to dig this job. But if everything goes bad, it's going to cost $200,000. We're going to hold $200,000 and we're going to just pray to God that when we hit that dirt, we're not going to have to hammer, and then we're going to save all that money. So just mentally know that this could happen. But I'd rather that than come back with a $100,000 change order. The client is shocked and refuses to pay it because you didn't give them the notice about hammer, and they're like, "Fuck that! You're already $100,000 over budget, and you haven't even broken ground. You haven't even started concrete yet. This is bullshit. What else are you gonna do?" Well, we knew this would happen. Why didn't you tell me that? So you're not communicating this. So how do you fix this? You tell your clients up front. You tell them about the unpredictability about construction, certain scopes. That you budgeted one thing, but you're expecting another thing, and you're hoping for anything in between. You got to give real world examples. Last year we dug a project and this happened. We had to dig down like this. We had to bring in the fill. We had to compact it. It still wasn't good. The soils engineer came out. We had to make the footing depth deeper. There's so many unforeseen conditions in construction that may require additional work and costs. You need to convey that to your clients early and upfront. So, number one, just to recap this whole thing, the number one mistake that all contractors make is not asking the right questions when it comes to estimating. So over here, you can see in this spreadsheet, this is nothing special. These are just random placeholder numbers that I have. But like in the excavation, let's go in here. So like I make a note in all this. So when bidding, ask to include rebar in the slabs, patios, driveway, and etc. So I want to make sure that I've asked the flatwork guy, don't forget to include rebar in your bid because there's nothing worse that you get a bid from them. They come out and you say, hey, I want you to put number 4s, 24 inches on center. And that wasn't in our bid. That's an extra $3,500. You're like, well, that sucks, but I guess I need it. So, let me think of another thing right here. Let me just show you some random things just for some gotchas. Like for the insulation, make sure we have all interior walls have sound bat insulation. That's something we put in there. Roofing. So if we have a flat metal roof, does it include ballast? Make sure all flat roof drains, scuppers, ballast are included in their bid. So I got to make sure that they're sloping. They include the drains, they include the scuppers, and I make sure that they have snow guards that are included on all their metal roofs. Because in Utah, if we have a metal roof, it's slippery. And when that snow starts melting and it goes, it can slide off fast and it's dangerous and it piles up in your driveway and all this bullshit. So you put these snow guards, these bars across. So as the snow melts, it hits the bars, it hits the heat stripe tape, it melts it a little bit into the gutter, and then it'll slide again and hit the bar so it doesn't come down on top of your driveway or even worse, like on top of you, your car, your kid, whatever. So, some other things with the counters. Are there backsplashes? Are there shower benches? Are there waterfalls? Are there integrated sinks? Is there barbecue stone outside? Are there any shower walls or floors, etc., that are included in a countertop, i.e., a slab and not tile? Wood flooring labor, they got to include red guard material or vapor barrier and labor. So we just had a gotcha, an LLC that we just learned about not having a vapor barrier down on a gypcrete floor, and that floor started wicking a lot of moisture on a lockable floating floor, and it was made out of cork, and it started buckling the floor. We read the manufacturer specifications, and we needed to have a vapor barrier on there. So we start reading all the manufacturer specifications on flooring. Here, if you're not doing this, you should, because they all require on a concrete surface, if you self-level it, gypcrete, anything. So now we're going to put down red guard or a vapor barrier to allow that moisture not to penetrate the floor and potentially make it buckle. So that's a lesson learned for us. That is a new standard. So whenever we bid a job, I'm going to make sure that I go to the wood flooring guy and say, hey, make sure you add X amount of square feet of a vapor barrier or red guard rolling it on. That's just a standard that we do. We know it's going to make your bid go up. Interior paint stain. Once again, what I'm going to say to them, hey, this is the base type, this is the case type, this is the window type, this is the ceiling and wall type, these are the steel beams that are required. All these things are situations that have come up in the past. And so when I'm going to send this out to bid, I'm going to read the notes on this spreadsheet. I'm going to make sure that this spreadsheet has information in it that I have remembered over the past, the gotchas, the LLCs, the lessons we've learned along the way. And I make sure that when I send that out to bid, I'm going to say, hey, Mr. Plumber, don't forget to put the water softener. Don't forget to put the recirculating pump in there, the tankless water here, to the blah, the blah. Here's the 25 things I need you to add in this bid. Make sure you include it so I know your bid accurately represents what's going to be installed in this house and I have an accurate price to give the client so I'm not giving a change order. So not asking the right questions is mistake number one. Mistake number two is not holding enough money for those surprises. So, if you scroll to the very top of this spreadsheet, I might have something in here in general labor. It's something in here that you're kind of just hiding in the budget saying, okay, this is for the fuck ups, or maybe it's job site safety and supplies. This is the random things in this house that could just bite us. And based on that, I'm going to hold an extra $25,000 and to be put in general labor just in case. So hold enough money for those surprises, but make sure you ask the right questions so there are no surprises. And then communicate, number three, to your clients, to your owners, to the contractors about the unknowns that are in the building. So if you're a tile guy and you're like, hey, I just want to let you know, like I bid this project per plan, but it didn't show if there was curbs, it didn't show if it was miters, it didn't show if I had Schluter edges. So I held an allowance for Schluter edges, but that's going to be the cheapest type. If these guys want to do 45 miters on every single corner, the shower niches, the curbs, all that stuff, that's going to cost more money. It's going to be about, I don't know, $3 more a square foot. Just letting you know. I'm like, okay, good to know. So you're communicating with me so I can add $3 more a square foot to that shower in my gotchas and say, okay, homeowner, this shower is $20,000, but if you want to do it with miters and this and that, it's going to be $30,000. So you can choose. Do you want to save the money and go with Schluter or you want to go with the miters? But we know the price either way. So we're communicating those unknowns properly. The tile guy communicates it to me. I communicate it to them. So there's a lot of, and same if you're just working with a homeowner and not a general contractor. If a homeowner hires you just to do a bathroom remodel, you got to say to them, hey, I'm bidding this with Schluter. That's the cheapest way to go. But, if your Pinterest searches show these 45s and you really like them, that's going to cost $3 more a square foot. So let me ask you this question. I mean, you can't really answer it on this video, but my guess is you've made these mistakes before. So if you've made these mistakes before, drop a comment below. Just say, LLC, lesson learned conversation. So comment LLC in the comments below. Let me know you made these mistakes before because I want to let you know that you're not alone if you made mistakes in construction. That's why I have this podcast. That's why I have this YouTube channel, because I'm trying to share the lessons learned. There's all these undefeated mistakes that happen every time. Construction is undefeated. It will continue to be undefeated. No one has a perfect fight record against construction. And if you want to estimate better and protect your profits, then you got to make sure that you're asking the right questions, you're holding enough money for those surprises, and you're communicating to your clients or the general contractors the proper things that might go wrong in this project. So if this happened to you, just comment LLC so everybody else in this video understands and sees that they're not alone, because you're not alone. If you've made these mistakes, which I know you have because you're in construction, then you're not alone. So drop a comment LLC. And then also, if you want this spreadsheet, I'm giving away this spreadsheet for free. So if you want this spreadsheet, just DM me on Instagram, David James Wintzer. DM me estimate, and I'll get your email address and I'll send you this spreadsheet right here. It's free. It's a smart spreadsheet. All you got to do is put the numbers in. It'll tell you the value of the price per square foot. And then at the very bottom, all you got to do is put your percentage in, all that stuff, and free spreadsheet. So comment LLC in the comments. DM me estimate on Instagram if you want this spreadsheet for free. And best of luck to you guys. Don't make the same mistakes we all make. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.